Welcome to Cash Chats with me, Andy Webb from BeCleverWithYourCash.com. This is the podcast to help you make the most of your money. In episode 368, I'll be taking you through the ISA allowances for the new financial year 2024-2025 that is just weeks away. I'll also be sharing how the newly announced British ISA will fit into that. Sticking with allowances, I've got an update for you on some changes coming to the capital gains allowance and the dividend tax allowance, which will be really vital to take action on now if you are currently investing. Plus, there are yet more bill increases coming along this month and early next month. Specifically here, I'm going to talk to you about broadband and mobile phone price hikes, letting you know some of the things you can be doing now, whether you're in contract or out of contract. And as ever, I will have my deals of the week right at the end as well, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Quickly say, I'm obviously filming this in a different location. I'm in a hotel, travel lodge recording this right now, but hopefully we don't have too much interference from the sound outside and stuff, and you can just enjoy the show. Let's get into it, shall we? This is episode 368 of Cash Chats. So to start off talking about mobile phone and broadband price hikes, sadly, like everything else, they're going to be getting more expensive again, either the end of March or the beginning of April for the vast majority of us. Whether you're in contract or out of contract, those price hikes are on the way. Now, it does vary by provider, and we have got a list over on BeCleverWithYourCash.com, which goes through each of them, what they're doing, how much is going up, by when it's going up, and also whether it does only impact those people who are out of contract. Because there are a few of them, some of the smaller companies who aren't passing, particularly when it comes to mobile phone, aren't passing on those price hikes while you're in that initial contract. But it doesn't mean they aren't all still trying to get more from us. And these hikes, when they come along, they're not small amounts. They're going to be higher than inflation, which seems massively unfair, doesn't it? Because in their contracts there, they've got it baked in. It will say, we will be able to increase Germany in the spring, that's when it's all set to happen, our rates every single year by X amount plus the rate of inflation. Now, inflation is coming down, which is great. The most recent figure has it around 4%, which is way, way better than we were a year ago when we were looking at inflation rates of 10, 11, 12%. So they aren't going to be as big as they were last year, but they're still going to be pretty high. The highest one out there is for O2 and Virgin Media. They are increasing prices for all their customers by 8.8%, which is absolutely massive. And then go down there below, keep going down. A lot of them around 6%, maybe a few around 4 or 3%, and some of them not passing it on to customers in contracts, and a handful of them not putting prices up at all. But broadly speaking, I would imagine you're going to get hit by one of these hikes, broadband or mobile, in your household. So what can you do about it? Well, if you are in contract, that initial terms, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to do anything right now. It used to be that Virgin Media, you could exit penalty-free, but sadly, they got rid of that last year. So you're going to be locked in with them. In fact, the only ones where you can really get out of this, if you're still in contract, is Sky Broadband and Sky Home Phones. If you have Sky TV, those prices will go up as well, but you can't get out of that contract. Which would mean that if you might renegotiate, you go off somewhere else for your broadband, but you've still got to keep your TV package paid in. That might become more expensive if you don't have broadband. But broadly speaking, you can't do much. There are obviously some occasions, if you've had poor service, broadband's a good example here. If you haven't been able to get the speed that you were promised when you signed up, the broadband company has 30 days to try and fix it for you. If they can't fix it within 30 days, and you are in contract, then you can leave penalty free. So it's worth, if you're not happy with the price increase and you're also not happy with your service because you're not getting the speeds that you were promised, then that's a good thing to try and do so you can exit when these prices go up. I would say make a note right now. If you all know, you look at this, you're in contract or you know you're in contract, at least put a note in your diary to say exactly when it is that is going to end, so you can then take an action to kind of move on and try and bring your bills down. And this is something that you can do if you're already out of contract, okay? I'll take you through the basic steps here, what to do with your broadband and mobile phone thing. The easy thing to do, the most simple thing to do, is to shop around. Go onto a comparison site and see what other prices you can find with a service you like. Now, don't forget with mobile phones that there are only 4 major networks, EE, O2, Vodafone, and 3. All the other providers will use the same signal. Their piggyback, it's called, on the back of one of them. So Smarty uses 3, Voxy uses Vodafone, giffgaff uses O2. I mean, in those examples, those networks are all owned by those networks. But there are other brands, as we all know, out there which are worth having a look at as well, which could potentially be much, much, much cheaper, but you're getting the same signal. Or what I tend to do more than allow them going to those smaller SIMs is go via a third party, look for special offers, and often you can get the big networks at much, much lower prices, comparable, maybe a little bit more than some of those kind of much, much smaller networks, but way, way, way less than if you went straight to the website or just took the normal deal from those big networks. So do that, shop around. Once you found a deal that you really like the look of, haggle, get on the phone with your provider and say, look, I found this deal, I'm going to leave. So you'd ask for disconnection with your broadband, you'd ask for your pack, which is the code that you have, porting authorization code, the code with your mobile phone, and that kind of shows them that you're serious, right? And that's how you get through to the best deals when you're haggling, and they may well match, or if not beat, or even if it's a little bit more, you avoid the inconvenience having to change provider right now. So that's what I would be doing if your bills are going up. But I would wait just a little bit, right, if you're out of contract, because if you move to a new network, then that new contract you sign up, if they allow contract increases at the same time, price increases in the contract, you could get hit if you change now for that increase that happens at the end of March or the beginning of April. So maybe just hold back a little bit and do it once the prices have gone in, just so you're haggling potentially for the best deal and not seeing it suddenly jump up by 6, 7, 8% just a few weeks after you do sign up. So make sure you take action on that. That is a really, really big one happening right now. So with the new financial year just a few weeks away, it's worth talking about some allowances. I'll come on to ICE allowances in a moment, but first of all, I want to talk about a couple of tax ones, which are more likely to be around relevant to you if you are doing any investing at all. These are your capital gains allowance and your dividend tax allowance. Now, yes, there will be other people who will be impacted these, but I think this is where it's, for most people listening to this and watching this, this is going to be where this kind of comes into play. So what are they? First of all, now a capital gains allowance is when you have something, normally an investment. So we're talking mainly about stocks and shares, but it could also be potentially, you've got a second home, or you've got some fine wine collection or some art or all sorts of things like that. It's essentially the profit you make from when you first bought it to when you sold it. You get taxed on that capital gains tax. This is if it's not held in an ISA, and we'll come back to that in a minute. Dividend tax allowance is when you get paid dividends. Now, again, lots of stocks and shares, they will pay a regular dividend. This is when kind of the people, the firm, you hold those stocks and shares, the actual stocks and share itself, the company there, they might issue a profit dividend, so they share those profits out with all the shareholders. Other people do this well, and lots of people with small companies, they might pay themselves with dividends. But effectively, there is a tax that is paid, a dividend tax, when you pay those. Now, how much you pay of capital gains tax and dividend tax does vary, and that will relate to your actual tax bracket. So I'm not going to go into detail on those right now, but you can obviously find that in my information quite easily. And we do have an article on becleverwithyourcash.com that takes you through it. What I want to talk about here is the tax-free allowances, because you aren't taxed on all of it. You're able to earn some dividends every year and some capital gains every single year without paying any tax. But they are being cut. They've already been cut once. They're going to be cut again at the start of April 2024. So a year ago, that capital gains allowance was £12,300. Currently sits at £6,000 a year. It will go down to £3,000. The dividend allowance a year ago was £2,000. For this financial year, it's £1,000. From April 6, 2024, it will be just £500. Now, I'm telling you about this now because there are some things you might want to do in the next few weeks to try and optimize, minimize the tax you'll be paying in the future when those allowances are lower. The main thing you want to be thinking about here, and I think we'd focus, there's lots of things you could cover. We're going to focus here on stocks and shares and investing. Both those capital gains and dividends are completely tax-free if that money is held in an ISA. So if you have any general investment accounts right now and you haven't used up your ISA allowances, you might want to move those investments into a stocks and shares ISA, because that will mean in the future you don't have to worry about that reducing allowance and that chance that you'll be paying tax on some of those gains or dividends outside of that initial, that much, much smaller tax-free allowance that you get every single year. Sounds simple, right? Move it over. Sadly, it's not quite as simple. A couple of things you need to think about. Now, one of them is that to do this, you have to sell the shares in order to buy them again in an ISA. It's not just a case saying, can these now be in an ISA, which would be so much simpler, wouldn't it? But no, you have to sell them and buy them again in the ISA. Fortunately, a lot of the ISA providers, and it's worth, if you want to do this, these are ones to look for. ISA providers will do something called bed and ISA. And this basically means they will do that for you. There could be some charges at the existing German investment account for doing this, for selling the shares and transferring them over. So you need to look at all of this stuff. You also need to bear in mind that this doesn't happen instantaneously. So you could be selling at one point, and then when you go to buy it again, it's all done for you. But when you buy it again, then potentially the value could have dropped. So you could be losing some money that way. So you need to factor that all into play. And again, I would definitely read up more about BED and ISA. This also, you need to take some time. We're in the middle of March now. Yes, that gives us 3 or 4 weeks until, or less than that really, until the new financial year starts. But some of them require a certain lead time to do this. So you don't want to be leaving this until the start of April, a few days before, because you might find you're unable to do this. So that's a really important one to be thinking about there. But also when you do this, remember those allowances for this year will still count. They're higher. And remember, it's £6,000 right now for the capital gains allowance, £1,000 for dividends allowance. But the capital gains one is one to really think about this one. Because if you are going to be selling some of your investments this year to transfer them into an ISA or just sell them just generally, whatever it might be, remember, if it goes above that £6,000 allowance for 2023, 2024, then you will be obviously taxed on the gains above that. So you might not want to do all of them this time. You might want to transfer some over this year up to that gain of £6,000. So you are within the allowance and you don't pay tax on it. Put it in the ISA. And then when the new financial year comes around, then yes, that allowance is smaller every year at £3,000, but that might be fine for you to then transfer more money in the next financial year. Again, for a lot of people, this isn't going to be a problem. So we're talking about larger sums of cash here, but it's certainly something to be thinking about in the next few days and weeks. Now, if you are watching this podcast on the YouTube channel, the next section where I'm going to talk about the ISA allowances for 2023 and 2024 is a standalone video. You can click just up here and watch it afterwards. But don't forget, at the moment, we're also going to do our deals in the week. So maybe come back to this video in a moment or wait till the end where we'll link again to that ISA video right at the end of this particular episode. So let's end this episode with our deals of the week. If you want more information about all the ones I'm going to go through right now, some of them will require specific links and codes. Head to becleverwithyourcash.com/deals, and that's where you'll find more information about all of these and many, many other offers that we've hunted down. First one to tell you about is currently Lotto Open Week, and this is where if you have a lottery ticket or a scratch card that you've bought, and if you haven't got one, then you can just buy one and maybe you'll win as well. But if you've got one of those, you can use it to get yourself discounted or free entry to a huge number of attractions across the UK, including places like the Eden Project. This runs until Sunday, the 17th of March. Now, if you are after a rail card, there's a really good offer right now, potentially a good offer right now via trip.com. If you book a hotel with them and stay in that hotel within the next 30 days, so again, you've got a limited amount of time to actually do this, and you will actually have to stay at the hotel. We did look to see if there were any workarounds where you could just book a cheap hotel and never turn up. You will have to check in. But then you can buy a rail card for $5.99, which is quite a big discount as well. I would say, though, make sure the hotel you're looking at isn't overpriced compared to hotels from a different site, because it may well be you can get a hotel for less or a different alternative that's cheaper and a different offer on rail cards that work out cumulatively as a better offer, but it's certainly one to be taking a look at. And this is one you're absolutely going to need to get a link for from our website. But at the moment, you can get a free 4-pack of Beavertown's Satellite IPA, which is a low alcohol, about 2.8%, something like that. 4-pack when you buy it at Tesco. You will have to upload your receipt, and there are a limited number of redemptions available. So I certainly would be checking the link when you're in the supermarket before you buy it, and then upload that receipt as soon as you can from that purchase. Well, and if not, you've ended up buying beers. But if you do it just for the sake of this offer, that's absolutely what I would be doing. March is Free Wheels Month. This is only for over 55. So if that doesn't relate to you, might be worth letting know older friends and relatives. But it means they don't have to pay anything at all to get their will made up. And having a will is really, really vitally important, particularly if you are cohabiting with someone and you aren't married, but you want the stuff to go to them. You know, that having a will in place means they will get it, because there's no guarantees otherwise. But again, lots of good reasons to have a will. Now, I say it's free. It is kind of funded on behalf of charity. So they would ideally like you to pay a donation towards a certain charity in order to do this, but it still makes it substantially cheaper than many of the other options out there when it comes to wills. Obviously, you're supporting a good cause while you are doing it. Apple TV, 2 months free, available until the 14th of March for both new and previous customers. These offers come along quite regularly. It's well worth trying to take advantage of that one in the next couple of days if you can. But also, last one to end on here is Hyperjar. I did share this deal with you a few weeks ago about their cashback they were offering for new signups. 1% on the first £500 you spend every month, then 1.5% beyond that. That was due to end at the end of February. In fact, it did end at the end of February, but they decided to reactivate it at the start of March. So if you are keen to do this, sign up before the end of March in order to get your account with Hyperjar, and you'll earn those rates of cashback until the end of August of this year. So that's 5.5 months at a time of writing, time of speaking, which is better than you're going to be getting if they do get that 1.5%, better than you're going to get anywhere else. My name is Andy Webb. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Cash Chats. Everything, remember, is over at becleverwithyourcash.com as well. More information about many of the things we spoke about today, broadband and mobile phone price hikes, the deals, ISA allowances, those changes to capital gains and dividend taxes, allowances as well. So make sure you do check out those articles. Until next time, cheers.